Hey guys, welcome to Leadership Week number 2. And today we're going to be talking about teams and the significance and importance of teams. This isn't, hopefully it's not a new concept to you. Hopefully this is something that you've already heard and seen us talk about. We've certainly been talking about it quite a bit as a staff team. But I wanted to spend some time talking to you about why it's so significant, why it's important, I believe, to the heart of God. First and foremost, it's been a pattern all through Scripture for God to use teams. You might remember that one of Jesus' first things to do in his mission was to assemble teams. He assembled the disciples. You might remember Moses. Moses tried to lead the people of Israel by himself, and he got to a point where his leadership lid was maxed out, and he realized that he needed to establish teams. You might remember Paul. That Paul traveled the entire world sharing the gospel. He always did it with teams. Why teams? Well, I think it's at the heart of the gospel. I think it's the heart of discipleship, is that the gospel is about inviting people in. The gospel is about sharing the good news that there's a place at the table for them. And it takes us more than just saying that to people, it takes us modeling that. And so I think at the very heart of the gospel is teams. And the ability for you and for me to actually invite people in to our world and our lives helps us communicate the gospel, but also helps us disciple people. I think this is where discipleship really happens. The discipleship in my life took off because people invited me in. People invited me in to lead and to have a part in a movement. And it was that whole act of inviting me to be a part of a team that really changed and transformed my life, in all honesty. So it's important for us to be a part of building healthy teams. You might be familiar with Ephesians 4. We've read this before. It says, so Christ himself gave the apostles, he gave the prophets, he gave the evangelists, he gave pastors and teachers to equip his people for works of service, so that the body of Christ may be built up. So Ephesians 4 tells us that God has done something in your heart and mind, given us special gifts and callings, for the primary purpose of building up teams so that the teams could fulfill the mission and work of God. So it's very, very important for you and I to be captivated by and to work hard at launching out new and healthy teams. Now, today I'm going to talk a little bit from the book of Nehemiah. I've been studying the book of Nehemiah in my quiet time recently and just again reminded of so many fantastic leadership principles in Nehemiah. You might be familiar already with the book of Nehemiah. Excuse me, let me bring you up to speed. Nehemiah had been in exile. He was in the service of the king, and he gets word that his homeland, his people, the people he calls family, are in disarray. And not just, I don't mean disorganized, I mean there's brokenness. And upon hearing this, it breaks the heart of Nehemiah. And the opening chapter is all about Nehemiah's heart being captivated by this brokenness in his own land. And so he begins praying, and he prays, and he fasts, and he takes some risks, and he talks to the king. And he gets permission to head to Jerusalem to see if he can be part of the solution. When he gets to Jerusalem, Nehemiah makes a point to tell us that he doesn't do anything at all about the wall. He first goes and he investigates. He goes out and he looks and goes around the entire wall of Jerusalem to see the condition of the wall for himself. After he sees the condition of the wall, he decides to take the very next leadership step, and that is to assemble a team. So he calls all the leaders and the elders and all the people in and around Jerusalem to a meeting. And then Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 17 and 18 records part of the meeting. Let me read this to you. It says, then I said to them, he said, you see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God and how and my God on me and what the king had said to me. And they replied, well, let us start rebuilding. And so they began this good work. Now, it's important to note that the people that Nehemiah assembled were people that had already been living in the mess. People have been living in and around the wall for some time. Most likely, there are people that had some means and ability to make a difference, but nothing happened until a team was formed. Nothing happened until a team was established. Now, I don't have a lot of time today. I just want to walk through how to establish a team and what a team needs. And I want to talk to you today about the 5 P's of a team. The 5 things that a team needs to get launched and to be effective. And so the first thing that a team needs a passionate leader. In Nehemiah's case, it was him. By passion, I don't mean charismatic. I don't mean necessarily great with words. I mean that your heart has been ignited by something significant. Your heart has been ignited by a problem, by people, by a situation, a circumstance, that there's something, there's some part of your heart that's been captivated by the things of God. And that you've invested yourself. You are all in. And that's the first requirement of a team. That's what happened in Jerusalem, is that there was plenty of people there, but they needed a passionate leader, somebody that was all in with this particular problem. The second thing a team needs is I call it a place. What I mean by that is a team needs to be called together. A team needs to be assembled. A team is more than just a list of people that you can hand tasks out. Or a team is more than an email list. A team is a group of people that actually meet together, physically meet together. One of the reasons why a lot of us struggle to get teams off the ground is because we don't do the hard step of gathering all the people in one place. So the second thing that a team needs is a team needs a place. A team needs a regular time to meet together for it to be successful. The third thing that a team needs is a team needs a problem. I'll read again what Nehemiah said. He said, "You see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire." The very first thing that Nehemiah did with his team is, after he gathered them in one place and he gave them this place to meet, is he said, "Listen, guys, let's talk. We've got a big problem. It's not a little one. It's an enormous problem." And he cast the vision for why this is a big problem. He shared it. He shared the load. He didn't walk in and say, "Hey, I'm going to solve some things and I got tasks for all of you guys to do." He said, "Let's just talk for a minute about some enormous problem that we have together." And so I believe teams need problems. I think it's a job of a leader to walk into a room and say, "Hey guys, what are we going to do about this? Do you realize that how bad this is? This cannot continue to happen. Not under my watch." Those sort of things. It's the role of a team leader. Not to be passionate about something, but to help the team see and feel that there legitimately is a problem. And the fourth thing that a team needs is a team needs a primary objective. Now, if Nehemiah would have stopped there and just talked about the problem, that would have been pretty overwhelming for the team. Hey, we're in disarray. Let's see some of these words he said. He said, "We're in ruins. We're in an amazing amount of trouble. Our city's been burned by fire." And if he would have stopped there, it would have been overwhelming. And they would have all nodded their heads. "Yeah, this is a big, big, big problem." They could have gotten overwhelmed with lots of different things that they could have done. But what does a good leader do? A good leader boils it down to one primary objective. Guys, here's one thing that we can do that will make a difference. This is the domino, that if we invest our energies and time in this one thing, this will solve some of the other things, like the brokenness that we have between one another, the lack of connection and community that we're experiencing, the lack of cooperation that we have, and even eventually address the shame that we are experiencing. So a leader's job is to give a primary objective and to keep the team about that primary objective. That's one of the problems for a lot of teams, is that as they go, they pick up lots of other things they should be doing and could be doing, and they get busy with lots of things, and they lose their primary objective. So it's your job as a leader, it's my job as a leader, to keep our teams on one primary objective. And the last P that a team needs to perform at a high level is a team needs protection. There's lots of things that will trip up your team being effective. And in Nehemiah's case, there were plenty of them to go around. There were some people on the outside that wanted them to fail. There were some probably people on the inside that got discouraged. There were an amazing amount of costs, resources that needed to be assembled. Um, the leader's job is to make sure that the team is protected. And let me share with you 4 things that you as a leader can do to keep your team protected. Number 1, keep meeting. The first thing that will happen today in 2017 is there's going to be people that don't show up, people that flake out, people that forget. It's your job as a leader to keep the meeting going, to make sure that that place remains, to not give up. If necessary, to move on with fewer people or to recruit new people, to be that person that says, this problem is so big and we need a team that I won't allow this team to give up meeting together. Number 2, it's your job as a leader to protect them, to keep the team on track, to help keep the team focused on its primary objective. So keep meeting, keep on track, and not only keep on track, but to keep track of progress. And this is an administrative piece. It's your role as the leader to keep track of what people are doing so that you can remind your team of the progress that your team is making, that you can remind your team of the progress that still needs to be made. And number 3, to keep telling stories. So keep meeting, keep track, and keep on track. 3, keep telling stories. So one of the things that Nehemiah did is he not only kept track of what everybody was doing and where they were working, but he did that to keep telling stories. You know, there's stories to be told. Your team needs them. Your team needs to hear about successes. Your team needs to hear about how much God is working in and around the team. Your team also needs to hear stories about how there's more to be done. So how do you protect the team? Keep meeting, keep track, and keep on track. Keep telling stories. And here's the last one I'm going to share today. You've got to keep distractions away. Sometimes that's the number 1 job of a leader, is just to run interference. And this is what Nehemiah did all through his book, is he ran interference. He took the heat. He dealt with distractions. He dealt with distractors. He dealt with criticism all the time to keep his team protected. So there's some quick 5 things, okay? I'll repeat them. A team needs a passionate leader. A team needs a place. A team needs a problem. A team needs a primary objective, and a team needs protection. Here's what I want you to do this week. I want you to, number 1, rate your team or the multiple teams that you lead. Rate their health on a scale of 1 to 5. Second is I want you to go through those 5 P's. And of the 5 things that teams need, which one is most glaring to you right now? I mean, which is the one of those 5 things that you really believe that your team needs the most right now? And then the third thing I want you to do this week is I want you to pick one thing that you can do this week to address that glaring need. All right, God bless you guys.